Music brought to you by bensound.com. Welcome to Knicks Home Court with your host. My name is Greg Armstrong. This is episode number 34. Knicks fans boo Melo. Kemba Walker makes his first All-Star game. And the Knicks topic, should the Knicks rebuild or try to make the playoffs? Coming up on Knicks Home Court. Okay, we're going to get into a little bit of Knicks news first. Well, let me start with the injury report. Well, just really short. Derrick Rose sprained his ankle. He's probably day-to-day. He might even play tomorrow. It doesn't appear to be anything serious. And, we need all the good players we have. I have some negative things about Derrick Rose, though I wanted to get off my chest real quick. I noticed on the defensive end, he's always talking about defense. The teams need to play defense. My thing is, Derrick Rose, you're 27 years old. It's not pee-wee basketball. You don't need your coach to tell you to play defense. You know that every time they bring the ball up the court and they set a pick, and I want to tell the fans, if you can go back and replay, and if you don't replay, just look going forward. The Knicks have Atlanta coming up. There'll be a lot of pick and rolls, probably at the top of the key with Dwight Howard. Well, they were doing this with Dirk Nowitzki. They kept picking, and he just kept switching and trying his best to block Dirk's jump shot, which is not going to happen. And I'm like, why is he not fighting through this screen? And what happens is at the point of attack, and big shout out to Jared Dubin, who has a podcast called Locked On Knicks. And he's the one who I noticed. I was listening to his podcast, and he brought it to my attention. And when the teams come down and they set a pick for Derrick Rose, he just switches. So now you got Derrick Rose guarding Dirk Nowitzki, whichever way you want to pronounce it, Dirk. And it's like child's play for Dirk, even at his age. And you have to fight through screens at the point of attack. Or sometimes we face a team who may not have a scorer at the 5 and the 4, but they have a lethal penetrator at the 1. You seen that when we played Washington. Gortat picked Derrick Rose off, switches, and John Wall has Joakim Noah guarding him, or Kyle Quinn, or Porzingis. Wondering why Porzingis is getting in foul trouble? Keep having to guard these small guys because these guys keep switching. That's what happened with Charlotte. Switching. Kemba Walker is going against your big guys. Because one or two things happen. Either you have a low post threat like Dirk, who's going to say, okay, now I'm going to post you up, Derrick Rose or Brandon Jennings, because they like to switch. Or you're going to have a Gortat who's going to cut to the rim. And even if that's guarded, you're going to have John Wall or, say, like a Kemba Walker going against. Even if a team's game plan isn't to pick Derrick Rose, it makes sense. He's going to switch. And he cannot guard the bigger guys. Or our big guys can't guard their little guys. And what happens is you'll see John Wall or the thing is with Charlotte is they're not a good three-point shooting team. But what kept happening is Kemba Walker was open for the penetration against our centers. And you gotta fight over screens. And what happens is when that happens is the defense collapse to try to help out Porzingis or help out Hernan Gomez or whatever big guy we have guarding their fast guy. And then you get a rotation and you get guys scrambling and you get open three-point shots. Charlotte missed a lot of open three-point shots yesterday. And this is going to continue to happen as long as at the point of attack, we're not fighting through those picks. Melo does a little bit of switching too, but our biggest problem is really at that point guard position, and I have noticed that. Now I want to move on to something. Now, I'm watching the game, Knicks against Charlotte, and it appeared to me almost every time Melo touched the ball, the Knicks fans started booing. Like, if he got the ball and didn't shoot it right away, if he was sizing up the defense or whatever he was doing, the fans started booing. And, I got one thing to say about that. You're booing a player in your uniform, on your team. You are a fucking loser. And you don't deserve... What makes you think you deserve good players? What makes you think as fans that players are going to want to come here when they turn on the star player? They did it to Ewing and they're doing it to Carmelo. They're going to do it to Porzingis if he doesn't win. The threshold is win. Threshold is win championships. Get the fuck out of here. I'm not saying you got to be a stupid... If Melo's playing bad, by all means, boo him. Boo the whole team when they're playing bad at that time. But when they're playing a game and the game is still in the balance, you don't boo your own player once he touches the ball. Is he a wife beater or something? Did he child molest somebody? Did he do some crazy shit that I missed? He's just a basketball player out there trying to win for the team you're rooting for, you fucking idiots. Really? And then you're going to cheer Melo when he hits the shot at the end? Y'all some dumb motherfuckers. Who said New York fans are smart? You stupid. You stupid. See, I've been here long enough. You would think this team, and I hear a lot of fans say, this team is so bad. Motherfucker, I've been here when the Knicks had Ken Bannister, Terry Cummings. Yes, he was 34 and fat and old. Okay? Pat Cummings. Y'all remember that? Then, after Ewing, we traded Ewing for Glenn Rice. We had a team of Shandon Anderson and Howard Isley on the same team, getting major minutes. The fuck? Y'all don't know what the fuck y'all talking about. Y'all not paying attention. For some reason, y'all think y'all want to beat. I mean, I don't understand it. I mean, I'm looking and I'm like, so you thinking Knicks fans are smarter than Orlando Magic fans who still continue to support their team, who hasn't done anything since Dwight Howard? Or Minnesota fans who still go out, who another team that hasn't done anything even when they didn't boo Kevin Garnett. Oh, yeah, Minnesota fans, remember when Kevin Garnett was the only good player on their team? They didn't boo him out of town. Right now, Portland Trail Blazers is struggling. Guess what? They got the same record. Matter of fact, the Knicks might have a better record than them right now, and they made the playoffs last year. They're not booing Damian Lillard. Like, only in New York, we think we blame the guy who's actually good. How stupid is that? You're blaming the guy who actually has raised his level of play for the last few games. For at least the last 10 games, he's been playing great. Now, I like the fact that y'all not saying anything about Porzingis, but since he's come back, he's been terrible except for yesterday. Everybody acknowledges that Derrick Rose has been atrocious on defense, okay on offense, but we still, at the end of the day, when the Knicks lose, it delves into Melo. I don't understand this. What kind of philosophy where you blame and want to get rid of the best player on your team? What kind of stupid shit is that? Every smart organization adds to the better players on the team. Even if it's not working, you stick with that team. That's talent. Y'all acting like y'all can replace. Now, I had a discussion with a guy, a writer, and I said, where you going to find 20 points a game? Now, he said it's 30 people averaging 20 points a game. Yeah, that's true. But are any of them available for the Knicks? Crickets, right? I mean, really, Knicks fans? We out here booing Carmelo Anthony? Really? It's amazing. He's never going to be LeBron James, folks. He's never going to be a great defender, folks. That's never going to happen. That's just ridiculous that you're expecting that from him. He's not going to be that. What he's going to be is a good scorer and a lethal scorer at times. That's what Carmelo's going to give you. That's why I want to get this team in the playoffs so he can actually have that stage to perform on that level. But let's be real. Porzingis has played like shit lately. He's fouling out of every game, trying to block every shot. Let's be real. Even Clyde Frazier said it yesterday. You know what? Porzingis got to take some heat from me because you're 7'3". Why are you jumping when you're going against a guy who's 6'1"? He has to learn how to stand straight up. Even sometimes when he gets the ball, he's going to have to learn a clear out move and just go straight up and shoot your jump shot, dog. Nobody's blocking that shit without fouling you. When you shoot a jump shot, you're 7'3". Then when you put the ball over your head, that's probably 7'5". Then when you jump, it's probably 7'7". By the time a lot of these NBA players, yeah, they can jump that high, but they're gonna have to foul you. You act like you play. Porzingis is gonna have to learn how to play his size. He plays small. But anyway, I love Porzingis, and I think he'll be a superstar. But he got a ways to go. He can't even take anybody in the paint yet. And he gets pushed around too much. But I still love him. And I think the Knicks need to also, I like what they did last game. And I hope they do it again against Atlanta. Start off giving Porzingis the ball. Get him off to an early good start. And that saves the other guy's legs, and it also gives him confidence going forward. So, as I mentioned, the Knicks, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I'll mention it now. The Knicks beat Charlotte. They played a tough game. They hung in there. They fought. And they won the game. And it's really a good matchup for them because Charlotte doesn't really have shooters. But teams come in with terrible offenses and have great offenses. Because you know why? This is the NBA. And if you're not guarding NBA shooters, you ever see these guys practice? They'll hit 10 3-pointers in a row. Guys like Hernan Gomez can shoot threes with them in practice. These guys all can shoot. I saw a video, remember Willie Cauley-Stein? When he was trying to get drafted? He hit mad 3-pointers, like 15 straight 3-pointers. NBA players can shoot. If you leave them open, they're going to hit these shots. Don't tell me about percentages. A lot of those percentages is because players are in their face. But Knicks fans seriously booing Carmelo, that's some serious bullshit. That's some bullshit. You should never boo your own player. Knicks fans kill me. I remember Kobe coming to the Knicks games and they cheering Kobe, cheering LeBron. When you gonna boo your own? It makes me feel ashamed to be a Knicks fan right now. Then I'm reading on Twitter, it's time to get rid of Melo. Y'all motherfuckers who keep saying that don't know shit about basketball need to shut the hell up. Y'all need to show me evidence of tearing your team down, which I'm gonna get into that in a minute. Actually, in about 15 minutes. Tearing your team down and doing a total rebuild, as people say. Show me teams who have done this and how long it's taken. And let me know if y'all ready to do that. But anyway, let me move on. I'm going to move on to the NBA news of the week. I went a little long on that. I actually wanted to talk about other things, but I'll get to that. So, in the NBA news of the week, I'm going to mention special shout out to Kemba Walker because he's from the Bronx. And the Bronx is in the house. The NBA has an all-star point guard from New York City from the Bronx, and his name is Kemba Walker. Yes. I'm glad Kemba Walker made the all-star game. It's good for him. It's good for the city of Charlotte. Good for the Charlotte Hornets. It's good to see that. I thought he would be an NBA. You got to understand at this point right now. And I think that NBA teams, because of the new rules, don't get me wrong, I think Kemba Walker would have been good. I think Isaiah Thomas would have been good. I think because he's a really good shooter. He's a great shooter. But the NBA rules have enabled the smaller guys to get paid out here and literally control a team. Years ago, you wouldn't get to a championship with the little guy running the point and things like that. It'd be injuries and things like that. But now with the league, you can't touch these guys. They call more fouls on jump shots than they do driving in the paint. So guys like Kemba Walker, like Isaiah Thomas, that's why, you're going to see, it's going to happen. I don't know when, but it's going to happen. And you're going to get one of these guys from the D-League, one of these 5'9" guys who was killing the D-League, and they're going to come in the league and they're going to become a star because the league is really set up that way now. If you can shoot, if you're a little guy and you can penetrate, you can shoot the three, you can become a star in the league. That's just how it is. You're not gonna be knocked on your ass like in the past. I wasn't trying to rhyme. Now, the second thing I wanted to talk about, again, big shout to Kemba Walker. Congratulations on your first All-Star game. Another thing I want to talk about is NBA parity. And basically, let me just explain. Parity just means when basically the league is average. There's no great teams. Everybody has a chance to win a championship in a league full of parity. Look at hockey, you could say. When the number one seed could easily lose to the eighth seed. The eighth seed can make it all the way to the championship and win. That happens in hockey. In the NFL, it can happen. It actually happens in the NFL. You could be a wild card team, just get in the playoffs, and you have a chance to win the Super Bowl. I mean, even though there are dominant teams that do it every year, it's still enough parity where you can get somewhere in the league. Or better yet, you could be a team that was, you could be a 7-9 team, and the next year you could be 11-5 and win the Super Bowl. I mean, that's just how the parity is in the NFL. So the NBA wanted to have parity, and that's what a lot of the CBA has been doing, where they don't want anybody having super teams. But I'll just say this. I found that they're making it harder. They're trying to make it harder for players to leave their teams. And they're using money as the incentive. Basically, what they're doing is they're saying that if you want to leave your team, you got to leave a lot of money on the table. So the thing with that, though, only thing that does is they're trying to put the power back into the owner's hands. Because if the owner signs a player to a big contract and the player's not living up to the contract, you're going to see a lot of owners trading contracts. In this next CBA coming up, they've basically killed free agency movement, except for the smaller players, which to me is not really smart. Trying to falsely create the markets the way they're doing is just wrong. If it was an open and free market, I think it would flow a lot better. A lot of people think, oh, no, it's going to be the same thing. Teams that are being run right is going to be good, and teams who are not being run right is going to be bad, period. And the way they're doing it now, you're gonna see teams sign a player who they think is great, and halfway through their contract, they're going to want to get rid of this guy, but they're going to be stuck with them with these $250 million contracts and shit like that. And also what's going to happen is you're going to have players, right? Let's say, I'm trying to think, say Anthony Davis, the next big star, like say his contract is up and he's only 27, and, he might sign a long-term contract, right? And they sign him to a big long-term contract, but let's say what's going to start happening is the support players are going to be able to move around more freely. Then they're going to get the big contracts in free agency. It's going to be the support players, the role players. They're going to get bigger contracts now. And the main players are going to get the biggest contracts, but not from other teams. You understand what I'm saying? So in other words, a team that has a lot of great players, they're going to be able to be broken up. Because only one player is going to get the big money, and then other players are going to be able to go elsewhere because they're not going to get the same money as the top player on the team. That's how they're doing it, and that's how they're going to spread. That's how the league is going to. Players are going to move around based on that. The only negative is you're going to have players signing big contracts, and then they're going to be pushing for a trade. You're going to have players holding out. You're going to have players not wanting to play for their prospective teams. That's going to happen. That's going to happen. But the other thing I wanted to talk about, and I went on a long speech on that, NBA parity is what you're seeing now. You're seeing the beginning of it. This is the beginning of NBA parity, what you're seeing. Now, the reason why I mention that is if you look at the standings, the Knicks have been playing bad for a while now, right? But they're only 2 games out of the playoffs, out of the 8th seed. They're 4 games out of the 6th seed. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning that, everybody says, oh, the Western Conference is so bad. It's so bad. People are saying the Eastern Conference is so bad, it's so bad. But what it is there's a lot of parity going on. If you really look at it, you've had teams like right now, Atlanta is 27-20. They've had losing streaks already. They've had winning streaks already. You got Boston, who's 29-18. Now, these teams are starting to separate themselves from the pack. But then, in the 6th seed, you got Indiana at 24-22. Chicago, who's on the tailspin, at 23-25. And Charlotte at 23-25. Milwaukee, who everybody's favorite to make the playoffs, is 21-26. They've been losing games left and right. Detroit, who made the playoffs last year, is 21-26. And the Knicks are 21-27. And after that is Philadelphia, who's 17-28. And they're not really as close to the Knicks as people would want to say, oh, they're right there. So the Knicks are a solid 2 games out of the playoff picture after all of that losing. And this is the parity I'm talking about. The Knicks win 5 games in a row. I can guarantee you they'll be in the 6th seed. Now, are they going to win 5 games in a row for the rest of the year? Are they going to do that? I don't know. But I'm just saying it won't take that much to get them back in the playoff picture. Now let's look at the West. The 8th seed in the West right now is Denver, 21-25. They actually have a worse 8th seed than the East. Then after that, you have a whole bunch of teams from Memphis to the Clippers, all jockeying from position, all a game of each other. And I think this is what the NBA is looking for. Now, I don't know, the problem with parity right now is Golden State has all of them great players, and Cleveland has some great players as well. But this is what you're going to see. So this is how they want the league to be. You're going to have a lot of winning streaks and losing streaks between teams, except for the upper echelon teams. And that's it, But anyway, that's all I want to talk about as far as parity. Now, I want to get into the main topic that I meant to get into. I went a little long here. This podcast, I was trying to keep it down to 30. It looked like we're going to pass 30 minutes. But I want to get into the next topic of the day, of the week. Should the Knicks... And, feel free to email me at Knicks Home Court at gmail.com with any questions, any suggestions, and things like that. I do want to open it up to the phone lines and take calls. I'm still looking into that. It just takes a while. I've been busy lately. That's why you haven't gotten a podcast in a while from me. All right, so should the Knicks do a total rebuild or try to make the playoffs? Now, I'm just going to say this. I'm going to just tell you straight up, I want the Knicks to make a push to try to make the playoffs. And let me just tell you about that. Let me tell you about rebuilding first. When people say a total rebuild, I have yet to see anybody give me an example of a total rebuild that happened successfully. Tell me a team that has good players on it, or a star player, traded their star player, completely rebuilt their system from the ground up, and did well. Just tell me that. I mean, I have immediate examples of failure. It's ongoing, but since Orlando lost to Dwight Howard, they haven't made the playoffs. And how many years has that been now? Minnesota, even with Kevin Garnett, his last couple of years they didn't make the playoffs. They traded Kevin Garnett, right? They traded Kevin Garnett, and they have not made the playoffs since they had Kevin Garnett. Orlando, back to Orlando Magic, it looks like they're on another rebuild. They made a trade. They drafted Oladipo. I thought they should have kept him. They traded him for Ibaka, which, that's another thing too. A lot of teams make trades for cap space, and that's a misnomer. Players don't move around the league like that, dog. I'm not trading good players for cap space. Cap space is starting to really be... I've seen so many teams with cap space not be able to sign people. It's overrated at this point. Unless you listen, only players you're going to be able to sign when you have cap space is players who want their own team, who think they're better than what they are sometimes, or you're going to have to give a role player or a player who may be a budding star, you're going to have to give him max money to get him away from his team. Those are the guys. Or your team needs to be really good, like Golden State, to woo a free agent, because he's going to have to lose money to come to your team. So you're going to have to overpay for an average player. You know, that's just how it is. So, again, Orlando Magic have Serge Ibaka. He's going to get max money next year. I'm not giving somebody who's not even close to being a difference maker and has never been max money. He's a good player, but he's going to want max money. And what is Orlando going to do? They're going to give it to him or not? And they're far from being a good team. So, all right, and look at Minnesota. They got these young players. I think Minnesota will be good. But I don't want nobody, get the fuck out of here and tell me, oh, look how Minnesota's doing it. Get the fuck out of here. They on their second rebuild. Remember, they had Rubio and Kevin Love, and they still sucked. They had to trade him. Now they got Wiggins. They got Towns, Karl Anthony Towns, and they got Chris Dunn, and they got Zach LaVine. They got some very nice pieces. But again, that's just two examples. So I think the way you build a team is one, I think the way you build a team is similar to the Boston Celtics, how they have done it. Yeah, they build up assets, but they also made some very good signings. And I never knew why teams wouldn't sign Isaiah Thomas. But they made a trade for Isaiah Thomas. They made a trade for Jay Crowder, or maybe they signed him. They put some veterans. They drafted a couple of players. Everybody was saying, why are they drafting all these guards? Because it's a guards league. They drafted Marcus Smart. Remember, they drafted Avery Bradley. And they kept Avery Bradley. When things were going bad for them, they still kept Avery Bradley. They still kept good players. They drafted Rozier. That's what you do. They had Evan Turner. They let him go because he became a free agent. He wanted more money than they felt. I thought he was a good fit there. And he went to Portland, and you're going to see a lot of these role players too chase the money and then be out the league when their next contract is up. That's going to happen. Like Lance Stevenson should have stayed in Indiana. He chased the money, thought he was better than what he was, and I kept telling people Lance Stevenson is not that good. Don't count those triple doubles. The dude shoots 39% from the floor. He's not really a good NBA player, but for that team, he's good for what they need. And he left and thought he would be good. Now he's out the league. Or if he's in the league, he ain't playing many minutes. So, again, there's not many examples of a team that tore it up from scratch. Now, look at Philadelphia. Now, everybody's saying, oh, Philadelphia's going to be good. But, so you want the Knicks to be completely unwatchable for the next 4 years? Because when you're talking about tearing a team down, think about this. Can we all agree at this point, Karl Anthony Towns is better than Kristaps Porzingis? I think we can all agree that he's better than him right now. I don't know about in the future, but he's better than him right now. Andrew Wiggins, a very good player. They have, and they still suck. It takes time, even when you do draft the players. Look at John Wall. John Wall was a number one pick in his 7th year. Now he's showing. Now, he was good the last few years. He's been good. But I'm just saying, it takes a while for these players to develop, man. You're going to be waiting 6 and 7 years of losing basketball, rebuilding. And then what happens is, when you go through those constant rebuilds, they start firing people. They start firing coaches. They start firing GMs. They start firing presidents. Then you're going to have to get you're going to get a new GM and a new president that's going to have a different vision than the old one. So then he's going to want to tear things down and change things and do things differently. Rebuilding is no joke, man. Now, as far as the Knicks, let me say this, for example. I got to mention the Melo trade. I don't think Phil Jackson's trading Melo. And people are saying, why did he give him a no trade clause? I don't know. I can't speak for the man, but I'll tell you this. Phil, as a coach, never came to a team that didn't have at least one great star or two great stars on it. He was not going to come here and do a total rebuild. Are y'all fucking kidding me? He was never even, I guarantee you, if he ever speaks about that, that has never crossed his mind. It may cross his mind now because he has Porzingis. See, you have a player who's a budding star. But it has not crossed his mind. And say what you want to say, the Knicks are a better team with Carmelo than without. Now, I heard this guy, I think his name was Seth Rosenthal, and he made a good point on the Locked On Knicks podcast. Like I said, go check it out, y'all. It's a good podcast. I'm not a hater. Go check them out. So, he said, Carmelo just might be that player when the Knicks actually start winning. He might just be the guy off the bench, or he might just be that lethal scorer at times that you need. But it's better. He means more to the Knicks than another team. You understand? You understand what I'm saying? Like, he could be that veteran. He'll always be able to shoot. He could be that veteran as these players around him get better. Now, I would rather see the Knicks team make the playoffs. I would rather see them try to make the playoffs. Even if they don't make the playoffs, if they come down to the last 10 games of the season and they need to win 7 out of 10 or 6 out of 10, that is awesome and great pressure for a player like Kristaps Porzingis to feel, for the young players to feel, to be in that environment. It's good for them. A real test. Instead of playing meaningless games at the end of the season when you always see. I remember a few years back, Marty Collins. Remember Marty Collins? Good old Marty Collins. For the Knicks fans who think we really got it bad. Remember we thought Marty Collins was going to be something? Because at the end of the year, he started putting up near triple doubles against really not really good competition. And not only that, when you're not playing for nothing, it's easy to go wild. That's why they always say, when you see a player who puts up good numbers for a bad team, what does that really mean? There's no pressure. Just do what you want to do. Shoot what you want to shoot. But when there's pressure on, players play differently. They get tighter. They play tighter. They play, they don't want to make mistakes. Kristaps Porzingis needs this pressure to become the franchise player I believe he is or will become. He needs that. Players get a sniff of the playoffs and they start working in that offseason. They get close to making the playoffs, they start working to get there. But teams that lose 50 and 60 games in the offseason, them dudes on vacation, they don't even want to think about basketball. Trust me. Trust and believe. That's a source of pain for them. Why I just want to go on vacation. I've heard so many locker rooms, I think Denver Nuggets, they couldn't wait when Ty Lawson was on that team. When they were losing so many games, they could not wait for the offseason. They turned on Brian Shaw. They stopped practicing and playing hard towards the end. When teams know they're not going to win, sometimes it's hard to keep being professional in the face of that. The Knicks need to keep the pedal on the metal and keep trying to make the playoffs, especially when after losing 14 out of 18 games, the Knicks are still only 2 games from the playoff picture. Only 2 games out of the playoff picture after losing 14 out of 18. Why should they stay? Other teams in front of them are going to have turmoil. Other teams like Chicago, other teams are going to lose games. And I really don't believe that a team with Derrick Rose, even no matter how bad his defense is, Carmelo Anthony and Porzingis, relatively healthy, they should be able to make the playoffs. There's going to be games where they're going to outscore teams. Who knows? There'll be some games where they may play defense when they need to. There might be games where they turn it over less. There's a lot of teams in the league the Knicks can beat up on and win games. And if you really think about it, a few bounces here or there, the Knicks might be at 500 or above. If you think about it, they lost about 5 or 6 games recently by 1 or 2 points. Less than 3 points. Let's be real. So, I would rather make that push. I'm saying, Knicks fans, a lot of fans say, I'd rather tank. But let's be real. I wouldn't trade the playoffs for tanking any day. First of all, there's no guarantee that any of these players you tanking for are going to be good. Do you remember when the Knicks first got Carmelo Anthony and they made the playoffs and they played Boston? They lost to Boston, but remember, Carmelo went off in one of those games. Meaningful games in the spring. It's where it's at, man. That's what you gotta have. You can't be out here looking at lottery balls. We still gonna get a good pick because we're gonna be in the middle of the pack. I'd rather go. You gotta understand. All right. For example, Kawhi Leonard, I think he was a top 20 pick. He might have been like number 15 or something like that. You don't have to have the top pick. Jeff Teague's a good player. I know he was mid first round. You don't have to have a top pick. You got to have good scouting. And let's be real, say what you want. Maybe Phil is not the best at trading players, but he's done very well when it comes to recognizing talent. You got to give him props for Hernan Gomez. You got to give him props for Kuzminskis. You got to give him props for Baker. And I want to see those guys in fucking playoff atmosphere. That might take their game to the next level. I'm telling you. It's not about winning. It's about experiencing that atmosphere. What's real. The level you need to get up to. Moving up to that level. I'm telling you what it does to young players. When they go on a different stage, it's another level. The regular season going to seem easy next year. They make the playoffs. Trust me. You talking about a team, if they make the playoffs this year and they fight through all this adversity and make the playoffs, I can guarantee you, if they keep this team together, I can guarantee you this team will be in a much better position come next year. They'll be over 500 at this time of the year. And also, I want to say this last thing before I go. I think the Knicks should keep this team together as much as possible. I think that this team needs to be the Knicks, except for little small moves, this needs to be the Knicks team until Melo's contract is up for the next 2 years. They need to stick with the same team, the same coach, the same philosophy, and Phil Jackson needs to let them know, listen, y'all in this boat together. I'm not moving anybody. Y'all gonna have to get out of this shit because y'all too good to be losing these games like y'all losing. Now, only caveat I would say, and I want to say this to Knicks fans who want to get rid of Derrick Rose. Look, there's a guy I like. I would love for the Knicks to go after Drew Holiday. But let me tell you something about Drew Holiday. He's coming into his prime, and he's going to want a max deal. You're going to have to pay him at least $25 million to get him. And remember, New Orleans can match. And also, for him to leave New Orleans, you got to understand something. It would be really cold-blooded if he left New Orleans, who waited patiently while he dealt with his wife's surgeries and things like that. They were very patient and very nice with him. But still, money is money. But just understand, if we're going to get a player like Drew Holiday, it's going to cost us $25 million. And I would rather have Drew Holiday than Derrick Rose. Why? He's a better defender. He's a better shooter. He's a better playmaker. He's not as lethal as scorer as Rose is, but he checks so many boxes that the Knicks need right now. You know, I even like Rick Rubio, but he's not a free agent. The other free agent point guard out there is Jeff Teague, George Hill. Keep an eye on one of those three guys. They might be a Knick next year. But that's the only position I'm looking for the Knicks to do something different with. If they re-sign Derrick Rose, it has to be for like I said, for the duration of the time Melo is here. I don't know what they're going to do with Derrick Rose, but I think that as soon as the year ends, I think the Knicks are going to have to basically renounce his rights right away and go after somebody like Drew Holiday on the first day. Here's $25 million to be our starting point guard for the near future. He's 26 and he can ball. Anyway, this brings us to the end of Knicks Home Court. I am your host. My name is Greg Armstrong. This has been episode number 34. You can find Knicks Home Court on iTunes under Life Culture Sports. You can also visit the website under Life Culture Sports /Knicks Home Court. Or you can go to YouTube and you can find these videos also under Knicks Home Court. Oh, and one more, you can go to SoundCloud and find the videos. The audio and SoundCloud on Life Culture Sports. It's been real, folks. But again, don't get so emotional, man. Don't be the effed up Knicks fans that. How do you expect to get other boo and Melo? Boo, boo. Hey, Steph Curry, why don't you sign with the Knicks? Boo and Melo, boo. Russell Westbrook, why don't you come to the Knicks? Do you see how Russell Westbrook plays? He plays like a wild man. Sometimes he has 10 turnovers. You're going to boo him too, right? Fuck out of here. How do you expect to get the best players around the league when you booing your own player in uniform before he even makes a mistake? Get the fuck out of here. Y'all need to stop that shit. And that brings us to the end of this podcast. Peace.